All right, looks like we're right about 2 p.m. here, so we'll get this webinar kicked off for today. My name is Dylan Mercier with Master Library, and today we're going to be reviewing getting strategic with your assets, digitizing your assets and PMs. This is focused towards the next-gen facility managers, and we'll get kicked right off here. Now, quick little bit about myself. I got about 15 years or so in the trades. I've done everything from electrical, HVAC, focused on low voltage for the bulk of it though. Access control, cameras, Wi-Fi systems, networking, kind of done it all, but that's what got my niche into facilities and really started learning about how these buildings tick. Done a lot of work, both residential and commercial, kind of gives me a unique outlook on how to run facilities. And I really have a long running passion for helping folks like you guys try and run the facilities as smooth and efficient as possible. There's a lot of neat little tips and tricks I've picked up along the ways. I've been able to have a lot of unique, candid conversations with different facility managers and directors, and finally starting to be able to compile those in a way to hopefully help assist others. So just a little one here, a thought-provoking story before we get rolling here. Think about the failed inspections of the past. Every person that manages a facility has had that gut-wrenching moment when you have an inspection that you know have been coming, something that you may even think is a simple one, something that you don't even really put too much thought in. And one little detail can slip through the crack. It can really have a negative impact on how both your peers and superiors look at you. Can really have kind of a negative impact and have a cost effect as well. If you have to pay an inspector to come back, there may be fines and penalties associated with it. Simple one that I've brought up before is a failed fire alarm inspection. You have a space within your facility that had some minor maintenance, a new paint job put up in a room, a few devices were removed, and if they don't get replaced before the time of your inspection, I mean, that's an easy thing that could have been fixed if you had a PM schedule or a walkthrough set up to kind of pre-inspect before that fire marshal or state inspector comes through. You know, there's a lot of reasons why people don't want to get into assets and PMs. Some people just don't see the value in it. Granted, short term, sometimes it's hard to see some of those value adds, but if you take a moment and zoom out, you can definitely see a lot of long-term value, both labor hours and just money in general from extending the life of your equipment that can be saved. Some folks just get overwhelmed with the process. I mean, you think of all the different moving parts and different assets that you have inside and outside of your facility, and it's a daunting task if you want to try and digitize all those. And not having a process in place makes it very difficult to start knocking off some of the easier targets, to start making that list a little bit smaller. And that's really all it takes. Start small, work your way up. It's definitely a great time to try and be proactive rather than reactive. I mean, your manpower is going to work a lot more effective. You're going to have less callbacks, and all in all, your job's going to become much easier. There's a few little tips that we've picked up along the way on how to get the process started when you feel like there's no good place to start. I mean, it can, if you have a digital work order system, using it simply for emailing and automating tickets from different employees within your facility outbound to your staff members sometimes is all people use it for, but you're really not getting the most out of it doing that. I mean, stare down that elephant in the room and prioritize your list. Pick a small subset of your assets, whichever ones are going to provide the highest value to have them digitized for you. It could be high maintenance items, one that have to be maintained regularly on either a quarterly or monthly basis. I mean, those are great ones to digitize. Ones that you self-perform. I mean, ones that you hire out an outside contractor, you don't get as much value out of those because, at least in a perfect world, your contractor is going to keep a log on that and keep you informed of what's happening. You're going to have invoices and documentation to kind of back up those maintenance logs. One of the more obvious ones are going to be the big ticket items that are very expensive when they fail. Your rooftop units, your large boilers, building-wide circulation systems, things like that. Obviously, getting the most lifespan out of those assets is going to both show well as you for a facility manager and make budgeting easier in the long run. Another easy one to target when you're looking at the assets and equipment that you have in your building are the ones that have serviceable parts. They may be ones that you preemptively change, such as belts, filters, and bearings, or it could be ones that you just have to have on stock in case something does fail. There may be exhaust fans or fan motors or pump motors that are changeable, but with a little bit of maintenance, you can typically extend the life of those. And if all else fails, call an ML Professional Services. I mean, sometimes it's just not feasible for a facility to get a system like this up and off the ground, and that's okay. I mean, everybody's running tight these days. The work orders are coming in, the expectations are getting higher, the amount of connected devices and building-wide systems grows every year. And managing and maintaining all those on a tight budget can be tough sometimes. If you just don't have the ability to get that initial lift done, call an expert in to get you started. Make that task feel a lot less daunting. At least of the primary asset types, we've found a top 10 list of some of the highest value adds right out of the gate. Now, this isn't a one-size-fits-all list by any means. Every facility is a little bit different. Every facility manager or director is going to have a different priority of what's most important to them. This is just a generalization from what we found working in a wide range of facilities, a little more focused on K-12, but most of these do fit many other facilities as well. And you got your drinking fountains, anything that has tests, inspections, filters, and replaceable parts. You got your lead tests and filters going in there. Fire extinguishers. I mean, it's liability, it's a life safety. There's generally monthly inspections as well as annual replacements and recertifications. And I mean, it could be equipment in storage that's blocking a fire extinguisher that doesn't allow the cabinet to be open, that creates a very real life safety concern. I mean, I've found fire extinguishers that are up on catwalks up above stages that we've identified as an outside contractor that haven't been inspected in better part of 2 years. They just get kind of lost if they're in an obscure location, and having those in a digital work order system with a checklist and or a digital floor plan makes it, I mean, borderline foolproof. Really gives you a much better feeling when you know your inspections are complete. AEDs. More and more commercial properties are starting to have AEDs installed, especially in your athletic facilities, main offices, areas like that. They have, I believe it's annual battery changes that have to happen. Most facilities take care of those battery changes themselves. It's printed right on the face of the unit, but it's another one that if you don't get into that cadence, or it's a new piece of equipment that you're not used to having to maintain in your facility, it's another one that's easy to be missed, and again, causes a very real life safety concern. The next three here, air handlers, rooftops, and also unit ventilators on the next page here, they're all kind of lumped together with the HVAC equipment there. And they're just very nice to have in there because you have the constant filter changes and general PMs for each piece of equipment. They're all a little bit different in what you have to maintain, but especially the world we live in these days, the filters are becoming of the utmost importance. The schedules where they have to run and take care of a certain number of air changes a day and make sure that the airflow is at proper rates. That's all going to help with that. And you can even track what kind of filters go in there. Each piece of equipment's a little bit different. They may take multiple filter types. They may not all be on the same monthly, quarterly cadence. So it's nice to have those once you get that initial lift done. You build out that digital work order system and you get those assets and PMs all digitized, you really can kind of sit back and let the system start to do the work for you. I mean, obviously you have to have your technicians go and do the physical work, but as a manager or director, it really starts to automate your job, and you can start taking care of other long-term planning projects. Emergency lighting. Every property has those. They're all over, generally in obscure locations. They require monthly and annual inspections that change. Some are shorter, where you have to do battery tests, and sometimes it's a 60-minute test where you actually have to cut the power to it. Knowing where all of these emergency lights are, what circuit breaker you have to turn off in order to run that inspection, and what type of batteries they have. Generally, facilities will have a mix of different generations or manufacturers of emergency lights, and you have a potential of each one of those having a different battery type, different location. There might be a specialty key or tool that you have to use to get the case open, and having that information available as that work order comes out to change those batteries or do that inspection, it just saves time all the way around. Keeps them from having to go back to the inventory room and grab a different battery type that they might not have had, or circle back to a maintenance office to grab a special key or release tool. All that saves up, especially when you kind of zoom out and look at it over an annual labor hours basis. Electric breaker panels. Larger facilities, they're generally not all in labeled electrical rooms. They may be in faculty lounges. They may be tucked in pipe spaces behind bathrooms, janitor closets, sometimes right in the hallways. And you're able to identify both the location of the panel, the name. You can save the photos of the panel schedules and all of that. So that helps not only for inspection side of things, but if you have to do shutdowns to service a classroom or replace ballasts up in lights, and part of your process to do those maintenance items is turning off a circuit or locking something out, to be able to make those connections, view those panel schedules digitally on your phone. It's really a great time savings. And even with the breaker panels, you're able to share that information out to outside contractors as well. So it's not only a time savings for employees of yourself, but you can also leverage that data and potentially save money from your service contracts and maintenance contracts from your outside contractors. Sump pumps. I mean, that's a big one. It's a smaller ticket item to replace, but in the event of a failure, a $200 to $500 sump pump could fail and potentially ruin a $20,000 gymnasium floor. Things like that, that if you have that automated preventive maintenance to go check the crock, make sure there's no debris in there, manually activate the flow, make sure the pump is still functioning, check the alarms to make sure that they're going to go off, notify somebody if a pump fails. I mean, that has the potential of saving you countless dollars if something fails on a weekend or after hours when nobody's around. Then I kind of cheated on the last one here, tried to sneak in a couple more than 10 here, and generalized all of the major technology head-end equipment. PA, phone, wireless circuits, security, access control, surveillance. I'm sure there's others in there that we didn't list here. This is just to give you a high-level overview. Often as a facility manager, some of these may be managed by your IT department, but still potentially have to be maintained, or an emergency service call situation. You as a facility director have to know where these are, and to have them digitized, have annual, biannual tests that are built in there, just helps to give you peace of mind and give you overall awareness of your facility. I mean, it's a big part of what you do as a facility director. You have to be aware of all of these moving parts, even if it's not something that you directly manage. So what's the point? What are the benefits? I mean, it's a lot of work that goes into building out one of these systems. And as we already touched on, we're all busier and busier. It's a hard ask to devote the amount of hours it takes to really build out these systems. But each year and each time somebody adds more data that's tied to an asset, it builds out a story. It's that maintenance log. I mean, so often over the years, you see technicians that all of that information, they keep it in a little spiral notebook that they keep in their breast pocket. And at the end of the year, or when that book may get full, they transpose a little bit of information, and that data is lost forever. And that is valuable information that has the potential of saving you and other employees down the road countless hours. The longer you're able to see that story and the further back you're able to look in the history of that asset, it really does start to paint a picture for you and allow you to identify problem points or even employees that are potentially not properly maintaining piece of equipment. If you can identify patterns of pieces of equipment that fail prematurely or are constantly getting callbacks or complaints from the staff member that utilizes that space. Data's power. I mean, the more you can build that out, the more it's going to save you over the years. There's lots of reasons why tracking the asset data is very important. It allows you to start to see that bigger picture. It allows those notes to be shared from other technicians. One person may have a very good understanding of a piece of equipment, know the problem areas, know the little tricks to get the door open, or what specialty driver you need to get the cover off, or what meter you have to use to test the airflow going across it. But if that person's out, or that person, worst case, retires on you, short notice, that information can be gone, and then it's an uphill battle trying to train the new staff member. So keeping all that digitized and linked back to those assets, I mean, it's just time savings over and over again, every time you have to touch it. Some of these larger facilities where ladders and specialty tools and maintenance parts may be kept off-site in a maintenance building, or all the way down in a basement in a maintenance office. If you walk all the way up and you realize that, man, the 6-foot ladder you have up on the second floor doesn't allow you to access it, and you have to hike all the way back down, you think about that again over the course of a year, and that's countless hours that you could potentially be saving. And then the other big one is seeing who worked on it last, seeing that set of initials, that sign off, whoever checked that work order is complete last time. Worst case, even if the data isn't there, it allows you to make a phone call and ask the question. Perhaps same person's worked on it 10 times and you're the first person to come up to it. It allows you to call them, ask them, find out what the best practice is, and make sure you're doing the job right. Another tough one to kind of dive right in there is there's no process in place. You look at your building overall, the amount of different parts, it can be unbelievably overwhelming. We have a little image down there on the bottom that references the plan room that is actually better organized than most that you see in K-12 and facilities in general. But the amount of time that goes into locating a piece of information that is housed in a room like that, that's not properly digitized or organized, and you're looking for an as-built from a construction project that may have happened 10 years ago to identify an asset or find the hardware information. That's a lot of time, especially if it's stored off-site. You may have to, as a technician, call your manager, call the facility director, have them take time out of their day to find the O&M, to get you the information, to scan it and send it over. Whereas if you have all that digitized, it's at your fingertips. I'm going to show you a little later on a quick tutorial of some of our products to really how fast you can make those connections from getting a work order, a ticket that comes in, locating it on the drawing, finding the O&M, and having it all right at your fingertips on a tablet or really laptop, any mobile device. You can even do it on your phone. And capturing that information, do it in bits and pieces. It's a lot easier to not be overwhelmed with it if you just get it in little bits. Getting your staff members to, instead of keeping those paper logs, handwritten notes, put them in the work order system, add it as just a notes, put it in the description. It's going to benefit them down the road and future employees. The process of getting started, a little overwhelming, I get it. But if you slice and dice it and look at your building in bits and pieces or individual asset types, it becomes a lot more manageable. You have to figure you're going around and you're doing PMs on these pieces of equipment anyways. So generally your staff is going to be touching them at least annually anyways, or at least be in those spaces. So if they're doing filter changes on a unit and they're going through the entire district and every unit ventilator, they have to change the filters, have them type the make, model, and serial when they're at that. It takes moments additional time. And then you as a director have that data at your fingertips from now until forever. One recommendation we always find is find your champion. Hopefully you have more than one, but worst case, you have to find one. The process is overwhelming to take care of on yourself. And if you're able to find a staff member that will kind of hype up the energy on it, help get some of the guys that might not really fully buy into it, see the value, see how it makes their job easier on a day-to-day basis, it's going to help you get buy-in from your staff a lot faster than if you're the only one trying to promote it. And also, it just goes a long ways having somebody at a peer level, on a technician level, that's promoting the product, showing everybody how it's easy, taking the little tips and tricks that they learn from using it on a day-to-day basis and relaying that to the other staff goes a very long ways. Using the digital floor plan tool is another big time saver. It allows you to add some of that information that goes into work orders direct from a digital floor plan. It allows that asset capture process to happen much quicker than if you were trying to take photos and manage it from a desktop computer. You can physically walk around the building, do all that image capture, grab your basic information, and as you do, it builds it out directly into the work order system. It's seamless. As soon as you drop a stamp on a floor plan, it immediately shows up in work orders and allows you to start building that story. It really does. All that work history and those different data points, that's kind of the backbone of it all. And then it also circles around to the cloud storage tool. We offer ML binders for that. That allows you to store warranty documentation, red line as-built from contractors, O&M binders. It takes all of those, the big 3-ring binders that everybody's used to seeing on construction closeout, essentially digitizes that entire thing and puts it right at your fingertips. Not only is it easier to search and maintain, but it keeps it linked to that asset, both in work orders and drawings. So you're able to recall it very quickly as needed. And I mean, it's often you spend more time trying to locate the information than you do actually using the information. And again, even with this, engage ML Pro Services. We're happy to come in, help get a game plan together for you. Depending on where you are, we can potentially come and do some on-site data capture for you, just help streamline the process all the way around. So real quick here, the 3 products that we have highlighted here is ML work orders, ML drawings, and ML binders. We'll close out of here real quick and I'll show you guys a real brief glimpse into the ML ecosystem here, as we like to call it. So drawings, work orders, and binders. They all have a similar feel, integrate perfectly with each other, and allow information to be shared from product to product. They each have their own little specialty niche and different use cases. So we have our demo Anytown CSD here, and we're going to go right into one of the elementary school floor plans here. I'll show you kind of 2 different workflows, one going from the digital floor plan side. I apologize, my login timed out here. Went from the digital floor plan side to the work order and work history. And then I'll also quickly show the work order utilizing drawings to identify where the asset is on your drawing. That's a great tool that contractors can use as well. Again, trying to save time and be respectful of their time will ultimately save you money in the long run. Just make sure the other ones are still logged in here. So here we have one of our digital floor plans in MLB. Looking at the many different asset types. We have everything, so far we have around 175 predefined asset types that are at your fingertips here. You can sort them by system, subsystem, individual asset type. This particular district here has set up all of the different icons throughout their building. We have one in particular here, a unit ventilator in a classroom. Gives you the information of the product that's already there. It gives you a couple of photos that are associated with it and allows you to quickly jump to the asset information page, which is within the work order system. So that one kicks over, and this is where you can really get into the nitty-gritty data of each individual asset. There are custom fields that are allowed to be put in here. We have a standard asset information built out that allows you to enter in budgetary information to help build with budgets and long-term forecasting. Replacement date, warranty information, how long is it supposed to last for? You have the photos of the unit within the space, close-up of the tag. That's always our recommendation, is to grab a photograph. There may be some other pertinent information that's on it, as well as the wide angle of the unit, just to get a feel for where it is within the space. Allows the technicians to add notes to it. Here's one, the screw that holds the cover on is stripped. You need a pry-bar to get in to change the filters. Not maybe the perfect world of what you hope to see, but a very realistic note that may be found for a piece of equipment. It allows you to jump into binders, the digital binder system. So if we want to locate the O&M manual for that, we can quickly jump into ML binders. Again, similar look and feel to it. And we're quickly able to access the actual PDF that came from the construction company for the unit ventilator that was pictured in there. As we all know, that'll have important information, the do's and don'ts, PM and procedures information, testing information, and different maintenance materials that are required. If there's grease points, if there's digital controls that could be adjusted, belts that need to be changed, all of that are available right away. If you have warranty information, you could add that in here. It's really endless what you're able to categorize to it. And they could be set up both on the individual asset basis. So if you want one for each individual unit ventilator for every room, or you could have a global binder that has one section. If you have an entire wing that has all of the same unit ventilators, you could point them all to the same binder, since they're going to have all of the same documentation as long as they were installed at the same time. Work orders also has the ability that if a work order was to come in on a piece of equipment and they have a work order to either go do routine maintenance or say change a belt because it's squeaking in a classroom, they have the drawings tab here where they're able to jump right in, click on the asset. It will open up a new tab with ML drawings. It will pre-filter the entire drawing to turn off all the rest of the noise. All of the other asset types will turn off. The only one that will be shown on screen is the particular asset that we were viewing within work orders. This is valuable, especially for newer employees or outside contractors that are trying to come in to troubleshoot a unit that may not be familiar with your building. This has the potential of saving tons of time and preventing you from having a senior staff member either have to escort somebody through the building to locate something, or also reduce training time of new staff members. And then you're able to quickly turn that back off and see the building as a whole. We're able to create preventive maintenance logs for any asset. You can do that both direct from the drawings page where you're looking at all of the individual asset icons, and you can also do that from work orders. So you can go in, click right on any kind of asset. So, say you had an emergency light and you wanted to create a work order that it was not working, or the battery light was flashing that was in trouble. You could quickly create a work order as you're doing your morning walkthroughs. Generate that work order. It goes through the approval process and will get automatically sent out to the appropriate folks. You can create a PM schedule. If you want to set up something that runs on a regular cadence. You can set it up to be annually, monthly, weekly, the first day of the month, middle of the month, the particular day of each year. You can have it every 5 years, really any cadence that you want. You can have it run for a predetermined amount of times, and you can also set exclusions. So, if it's something you only do during the school year and you want to exclude the summers, or if you only do it during snow season or cold weather season, there's a lot of flexibility with that. You can choose if it's building wide per asset. That's very nice if you have discrete work orders for each individual asset, or if it's just a building wide sweep that they have to go inspect all of them. You can determine what department it goes to, what building, which asset type, back to that same unit ventilator. Tell your staff to change the filters quarterly. And then every quarter, this is going to automatically generate the work orders, assign them to the proper employees, and give them all of that other information that we already rolled through, right built into it. We also have a large and ever-growing library of procedures pre-built for a lot of the major mechanical equipment and just a lot of the common asset types to give you a procedure to start with that your employees are expected to do in order to perform preventive maintenance. These are all customizable. You can edit if you have your own processes already in place. We can import those and you can have your own custom procedures. But again, trying to keep the initial setup task a little less daunting. We try to have as many of those as possible preset for you. So it's just a matter of selecting it from a pull down, and then those will run for you as determined. Boiler inspections, regular PM procedures, overall building inspection checklists. There's a lot of these. The opportunities are endless for it. And it just takes a lot of that stress off of your shoulders as a facility manager, director, to make sure none of these things are slipping through the cracks. For the initial crash course on just showing the products here, that's really all I'm going to get into. We'll have much deeper dives on each individual products in the future. Jump back into the last slide here. Also, just to let you guys know, we do have a YouTube channel for the Next Gen Facility Managers that weekly, at least, we are releasing new content. We keep them short and sweet. They're very informative. Just little tips and tricks on how to help run your facility better. We're always looking for comments, always looking for insight. We like the interaction. Check us out on YouTube. Hopefully you can find some useful content to help you run your facility more efficiently out there. I appreciate you taking the time to sit through this with me today. Questions, comments, my email is listed below at the bottom there, dmercier@masterlibrary.com. Feel free to send those along. Either myself or somebody else from the team will be able to reach out. We're happy to set up demos, just dive in, get into some better descriptions and help you guys out as needed. Hope to see you on the next one.